The other day I was gnawing on that gigantic chew toy, the internet, and I watched an hour of poker. It was an all-male affair with maybe 8 men sitting around a table, a big glass table, glass so the camera could show the hole cards. These were some of the best poker players in the world, and they were dressed variously to suit their highly eccentric personalities. People who make money playing cards, gamblers, are deliberately eccentric. They all have nicknames like truckers have handles, and though there was joking and laughter along with the constant nervous clicking chatter of the chips, they were very clearly playing for pride, honor, and lots of money. The winner would walk off with over $1 million. What's so exciting about a bunch of guys sitting around a table playing cards? Factor in the $1 million. It was like watching a bucket full of scorpions. They were playing high-stakes Texas Hold'em. After an ante, each player is dealt 2 hole cards. 3 common cards are then dealt, the flop. 2 more cards follow, the turn and the river. Betting precedes all deals after the hole cards are out. You play your top 5 cards, 2 from the hole, 3 from the rest. The winner of a hand is determined by a shifting combination of the cards and the betting. But I'm not here to tell you anything about poker. I don't play the game. I barely know what beats what. I'm a little shy on some of the qualities you need to play the game, namely guts and money, and a fierce competitive streak coupled with the ability to withstand substantial losses to both the ego and the wallet. Poker always seemed to me to be like golf. Intense, internal, individual, cruel, brutal, unrelenting. In both you can do everything right and still lose. I did notice a few things. Hole cards can be deceptive, which is not saying that much, since you could say that the entire game is grounded in deception. But you might think that drawing 2 aces in the pocket would be an advantage, and I saw a number of players get that draw, but I don't think a single one of them won the hand, and it cost them dearly. 2 aces can get you believing, and that can prove to be expensive, especially when your opponents specialize in surgically separating others from their money. There was a famous player at the table. Years ago there were articles about him in all the men's magazines, glorifying him, burnishing his image, turning him into a legend, and the game of poker into a huge national winner-take-all competitions. And more often than not, this man walked away with the swag. He was like Minnesota Fats, Big Daddy Don Garlitz, Junior Johnson, and Bobby Fischer. He was wearing a big cowboy hat that shaded his eyes, and he was the quietest one at the table. He tossed in his hole cards dismissively on almost every hand. When he kept the cards and called the bet on the table, it was because he had something. If he stayed in, it was because his hand was improving. Otherwise, he got out. There was no bluffing. He was easy to read, even I could do it. If he stayed in and won, the pot was small because the others knew he had the cards to back it up. And that was his game. Many folds and a few small pots. Sometimes a bet or 2 and then a fold when the hand failed to develop. As a player, to me, he was a massive disappointment. Whatever he had once had, that mojo that ate up the other players, it was long gone. The youngest player at the table was a man who had made a fortune playing poker on the internet, and then graduated to the, quote, real, unquote, face-to-face tournaments. He played almost every hand. The hole cards didn't really concern him, nor did some of the unwritten but well-known and rarely crossed rules of the game. He seemed to play the money at least as much as the cards. More so, I think. He often checked when he was holding the nuts. He once went all in when holding 9 high, and he won the hand when his opponent, holding 2 sixes, backed out. I think he developed his game on the internet. He came to play. Sitting out a hand would be a waste of time, talent, luck, cards, and money. Sitting out a hand was unthinkable. It wasn't poker. You came to play poker. The hand you were dealt really didn't matter. He was a voracious, exciting, daring player, with a baby face, going up against everyone at the table, sometimes 1 or 2 at a time, sometimes the entire table. The other, more mature gamblers saw him as a freak, ultimately, a sure loser. But he didn't lose, not the way they thought he would. They began to study him, not as a freak, but as a threat, and they adjusted their games to fit his. Even the old cowboy began to play more hands. They began to play against him just to show that they were not going to be bulldozed out of the game. And sometimes they beat him. Sometimes he was trapped by his own over-aggressive betting. But he kept winning, either forcing the others out of hands or beating them at the end with his cards. The difference was they tended to play their cards. He was playing poker. He was, in a way, magnificent to watch, a kid in a man's game, mopping them up. Clearly he was playing a different game, a kind of blitzkrieg, and it was working. It took me a while to catch on, but what he was doing was gambling. The others had, over time, learned to play smart, to reduce their element of risk. He maximized it, marinated in it, every hand. He stole their thunder. They would have to adapt on the fly or fall away. As it happens in every game, the torch had been passed.